713 days ago, I left Milwaukee, Wisconsin, or actually like 717 days ago, I left Milwaukee, Wisconsin on February 2nd of 2024. I was 34 years old at the time. I had lived in Milwaukee for my entire 34 years of my life. Although I had traveled a lot around the US as a kid, I hadn't traveled too much as an adult, and I just, after some different people, including my older brother Ryan, had told me that I needed to leave Milwaukee in order to grow, and my brother Garrett had moved to Arizona, and he was doing a lot of growth, and so yeah, I moved to Arizona and I tried it out, and now 713 days later, I was waylaid and I had been back in Milwaukee for a while, but now here I am back away from Milwaukee. So I live in this tiny house here in Viroqua, and it's really tiny. You actually see most of it. There's like a loft space above. There's like a bathroom area in back for my composting toilet. My sawdust toilet, and there's like a little kitchen area over here, and yeah, it's nice. Like over here is all my clothes, and over there is my office, and like it is cramped, but it works. And it works really well for me because I'm actually used to living in a really small space. Part of the reason I've been successful in life, especially financially, is because I had roommates and lived in small apartments in not always the best neighborhood. It turns out that the neighborhood that I rented in for almost 18 years, and now I'm a homeowner in River West neighborhood in Milwaukee. It started out cheap and it stayed kind of cheap. It's always been cheaper than the east side. So even when I was going to college, I was paying much cheaper rents than east siders, maybe 30% cheaper rents. And then, when you're willing to share with two or three roommates, then your rents and all of your bills, like internet bill gets cut in three, your heat bill gets cut lower, all sorts of things. You share a lot of stuff. So, um, yeah, that's worked out really well for me. But I'm used to living in small spaces, so I've always had small bedrooms. Uh, for anybody who's lived in River West, it's like notorious for having small bedrooms. It's kind of a neighborhood that was built by people who are like less affluent when Milwaukee was built back in the 1800s. So the houses are a bit smaller, the bedrooms are a bit smaller. I like to call it modest, and I love it. That fits into my whole idea of this modest elite. I believe that we have a culture in America that teaches might is right, wealth is a sign of God's favor, the market rewarding you is a sign that you're doing good for the world, stuff like that. And sometimes that can be the case, but people take that like dogmatically as a rule, and you know how I feel about rules. So there are no rules. You can only you can make rules for theoretical situations about generalizations where you don't have all of the information, but when you're dealing with real life, you should never generalize because you don't have to. You can respond to the exact moment. So people do, I see, tend to default to thinking that just because somebody is wealthy, that they are right, and that what they're doing is good, and that if something makes you money, then that means it is something that is good, and that is one direction. Once you get into the middle class, your life and your lineage, I like to think in multi generations and lineages and psychological, yeah, and genetic, but mostly psychological terms of like generations and evolutions of epigenetics and of memetics. The evolution of ideas, the psychic realm, the cultural realm. And I think that um, this humble elite is this dope idea. It's a different direction to go with your middle classness. So once your family has or is in middle class, or you feel sort of like you're safe, and you figured out how to work the system, or the system, has historically worked in your lineage's favor. As in my case, I inherited some wealth and a lot of cultural capital and like good at university, good at professional, good at, being mainstream culture because I was born into mainstream culture from a father whose fathers were, academics and managerial class and stuff like that. So, um, but the humble elite approach is that you believe in eliteness. You believe that there are certain choices that people make, and maybe there are certain truths about your ability to like do well in the world is a reflection of something good about your character. This can be true and often is true. Um and anyway, so if you end up cultivating an elite character, right? If you approach life like you're playing a Dungeons and Dragons game and you're trying to see just how high of a level that your character can get to, and the only way for you to unlock or reveal how high of a level that you have inside of you to reach in this life is going to be dependent on your ability to actually confront challenges of a greater and greater risk and reward, I guess, or of just a greater intensity, or of like a deeper meaning, or more difficulty to like find. Life will surprise you with challenges, and if you overcome them, you will level up, So, you don't have to go out seeking challenge to level up. Life will fuck with you. Pardon my burp French. Um, so I mean that to say I live in a tiny house, and you can cultivate an elite personality but then choose to live your life humbly. And I don't mean to say that you shouldn't say that you're dope, because if you're dope, you are dope, and you're going to attract followers who want to be like you. And that's cool, and you should teach them. And that's what that's all about. It's never about keeping your dopeness to yourself. It's about spreading your dopeness. You got to shine your light heart out to everyone in the world when you're doing well. So, it's not about being humble in that way. Although maybe there's something about shining humbly rather than shining so brightly that maybe it hurts people. Like, watch out for that. Like with the pride and stuff. Me. Okay, that's me. But yeah, the humble that I'm talking about, that I think is much easier for myself actually, is to just have humble trappings. Like, why do I have to make my life expensive for the system, right? We all built all our forefathers, whether we were the managerial classes are in our lineage or slavery is in our lineage. I mean, if you go far enough back, like all of us probably have combinations of like slave and indentured servant and lord and all that like mixed in, like because that's just how it works. But no matter what your recent like familial history is, like we all built this thing together, right? This technosphere, this like culture, this civilization, this global civilization with like pizza and Chinese food and like Italian food and like American food, but it's all like global because the ingredients come from all around the world and stuff. And it's like this one big system, and we built it together. And like, just because I'm dope, why would just because I'm dope and I could therefore navigate the system so well that I could lavish myself with all sorts of amazing like experiences and gifts, like flying all over the planet, like going international like every year because I just can, because I'm rich like that, And for the record, I have traveled now international once, and I want to again, and I don't think there's anything wrong with being global in that sense, but there is a sense of, as people get richer, their lifestyle becomes more and more expensive for the planet. And so I'm really resistant to that. I'm really about appreciating the fact that even like the poorest people on planet Earth now have access to amazing shit that like not even kings from like even the poor, well, okay, I don't want to say the poorest person on Earth because there's some exceptions where like there's some real slavery and stuff and indentured servitude and wage slavery and debt along with like wages and rents that are too high along with debts and stuff it can be a whole system that holds people into like a pseudo slavery of sorts. But like most people, even in the like below the poverty line, like even in there, for like lots of countries on earth, like we are taking care of people well. People have roofs over their heads, and in some ways like hot showers and stuff. Maybe I'm overgeneralizing how much of like what poor people have in America like to the whole world, but like poor people in America complain a lot, and even middle class people complain. They think they're like poor because they have upper middle class neighbors that have even more money than them, and they're just like, "Oh, I'm poor" or something. It's like, "Hello, have you been to the ghetto? Have you been either the Hispanic ghetto, the black ghetto, or the white ghetto? Like, have you been? I don't know about any Asian ghettos, but like, um, you're not poor, honey, if you live in anyways, if your parents aren't in debt, if you have a mortgage that your parents can like pay every month and they're not like too worried about paying it, like you are not poor. Even if you have like a mortgage that your parents worry about paying, but it's for a house that's way too fucking big for your family that you didn't actually need because your parents really wanted to send you to a school where other rich kids go so that you could keep having like middle class privileges and middle class friends, like you are not poor. Like you just don't understand. Anyways, that was sassy. Thank God for my anti-racist, anti-classist parents who sent me and my two older brothers to Milwaukee Public Schools. I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad. Anyway, so the humble elite idea is that you just don't have all those trappings. Like, look at this house I'm living in. It's like, there's the door outside. There's the loft space for storage. Wait, that's the loft space for sleeping. Although me and the dog are currently sleeping on the floor together these days. But yeah, so, um, humble elite, join up, make yourself a powerful character out of your own being, and then just like live humble as heck and just be like create lots but consume little and find all of the really beautiful like free ways to enjoy life: yoga, running, exercise, chit-chatting with friends, philosophizing about life, writing, poetry, music, making music, singing, exercise, yoga, play outside, go for a run, go for a swim, go for a hike, acro yoga, play with friends, tumble around, be an acrobat, play board games, get really nerdy, play cards over and over, chess over and over, board games over and over. And it's like free and it's like so good for your mind and it's so fun. Yeah, all the free shit in life that's so good. Do it. Humble elite. Humble elite. Be awesome. Make yourself cheap so that everyone has enough.